Most people never get serious about building wealth, not because they can't, but because they don't know where to start. The $3,000 rule changes that. It's not about luck, income, or timing. It's about a starting point that sets momentum, builds confidence, and turns small wins into lifelong financial habits. In this video, we're breaking down the $3,000 rule, why it works, and how people who follow it start building wealth faster than almost everyone else. Before we get started, if you want to see the simple foundation most people miss, hit subscribe. This is where practical wealth building begins. What exactly is the $3,000 rule? The $3,000 rule is simple. Before you do anything else with your money, before you invest, before you pay off debt aggressively, before you make any major financial moves, you save $3,000 in cash. That's it. $3,000 sitting in a savings account that you don't touch unless there's a real emergency. This isn't your investment fund. This isn't your vacation money. This is your financial foundation, the buffer between you and disaster. Most people skip this step completely. They hear about investing in stocks or paying off credit cards and jump straight into those strategies. Then life happens. The car breaks down. The water heater dies. A medical bill shows up. Without that cash cushion, they're forced to put emergencies on credit cards, borrow money, or derail their entire financial plan. The $3,000 rule prevents this cycle. It gives you breathing room. It creates stability. Once you have this foundation in place, everything else becomes easier because you're not constantly responding to crisis after crisis. Why $3,000 specifically? This amount isn't pulled out of thin air. $3,000 covers most common emergencies that derail people financially. A car repair typically runs between $500 and $1,500. An emergency room visit with insurance can cost $1,000 or more. A broken appliance, an unexpected bill, a short-term loss of income. Most of these situations can be handled with $3,000. It's also an achievable goal for most people. Saving $3,000 feels possible. It's not so large that it seems impossible, but it's substantial enough to make a real difference. For someone saving $200 a month, that's 15 months. For someone saving $500 a month, it's 6 months. The timeline is clear, the goal is concrete, and the finish line is visible. This psychological element matters enormously. When people set vague goals like save more money or build an emergency fund, they never feel like they're making progress. With the $3,000 rule, you know exactly what you're working toward and exactly when you'll get there. Every dollar saved gets you closer to a specific target. That clarity creates momentum and keeps you motivated through the hard parts. How this rule changes your entire financial psychology. Having $3,000 in the bank does something powerful to your brain. It shifts you from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. When you're living with zero savings, every unexpected expense feels like a catastrophe. You're constantly stressed, constantly worried, constantly one mistake away from financial chaos. That stress affects every decision you make. You can't think long-term because you're stuck in survival mode. But once you get that $3,000 mark, something changes. You stop panicking about small setbacks. You can handle problems without destroying your budget. This mental shift is when real wealth building becomes possible. You start thinking about opportunities instead of just avoiding disasters. You can take calculated risks because you have a safety net. You can invest with confidence because you're not gambling with money you might need tomorrow. The $3,000 rule also teaches you the fundamental skill of delayed gratification. Saving that first $3,000 requires discipline. You have to say no to things you want. You have to prioritize your future over immediate pleasure. Once you develop that muscle, it applies to everything else in your financial life. The person who can save $3,000 can also max out a retirement account, can resist lifestyle inflation, can make smart long-term decisions consistently. What comes after you hit $3,000? This is where the real magic happens. Once you have your $3,000 foundation, you can start building wealth aggressively without fear. Your next step is to focus on high-interest debt if you have any. Credit cards charging 15 or 20% interest are wealth destroyers. With your emergency fund in place, you can attack that debt without worrying that one unexpected expense will derail everything. After the high-interest debt is gone, you start investing. Even small amounts make a huge difference when compounded over time. $200 a month invested in index funds at an average 8% return becomes over $100,000 in 20 years. The $3,000 rule makes this possible because you're not constantly pulling money out for emergencies. You can let your investments grow undisturbed. Some people expand their emergency fund to 6 months of expenses once they hit the initial $3,000. Others focus on retirement accounts and building multiple income streams. The specific path depends on your situation, but the foundation is always the same. That $3,000 in the bank is what makes everything else possible. The biggest mistakes people make with this rule. The most common mistake is treating the $3,000 like regular savings. They hit the goal, then dip into it for things that aren't real emergencies. A sale on something they want. A vacation they think they deserve. Treating themselves after a hard week. Every time you pull money out for non-emergencies, you're back to square one. The $3,000 rule only works if you protect that money fiercely. Another mistake is waiting to start. People think they need to pay off all their debt first, or they want to wait until they have a higher income. Meanwhile, years pass and they're still living without any financial cushion. Start now, even if it's just $50 a month. Progress beats perfection every single time. Some people also set the number too high or too low. They decide they need $10,000 before they feel secure, so they never get started because it feels impossible. How to actually save your first $3,000? Make it automatic. Set up a transfer from your checking account to savings the day after you get paid. Even if it's just $100 at first, automate it so you don't have to think about it. Treat it like a bill that must be paid. Cut one major expense. Most people have something in their budget that they could eliminate or reduce temporarily. A streaming service, eating out, expensive coffee runs, subscription boxes. Find one thing worth $50 to $100 a month and redirect that money to your $3,000 fund. Boost your income temporarily. Pick up a side gig, sell stuff you don't need, take on extra shifts, or freelance. The $3,000 rule isn't about suffering forever. It's about making a focused effort for a specific period to build your foundation. Once you have it, you can breathe easier and make better decisions about how you spend your time and money. Track your progress visually. The $3,000 rule isn't magic, it's strategy. It gives people a concrete start, a foothold to build habits that last a lifetime. Start small, stay consistent, and momentum does the rest. If this gave you a new way to think about starting your wealth journey, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to finally take the first step.